right, we need base runners. Let's go. Blaine Knight, welcome for stopping by today. We appreciate you coming by and talking a little baseball with us. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're going to get to eventually before this podcast over is fishing, because you're more than just a baseball player.
Yeah.
And there's some stories I wanted to ask you about, but we are talking baseball, and this is a travel ball podcast, and I think everyone would be interested in just kind of finding out how you got into baseball, who got you into it, what age, and those kind of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I got started out in because when I was younger, like 8, that 6 to 8 range, travel ball wasn't a thing yet. So I mean, I played league ball in Bryant up until I was 12, 11, 12. And that's when U-Trip really kind of took the scene here in Arkansas, and played travel ball all the way from then, all the way up until high school. Got into high school. I didn't do Legion. I played showcase circuit here. Then went on into Arkansas, played there for 16, 17, and 18. And then I was with Baltimore for, I guess that was 5 years. And then I was off for a year, and then got back in with the Phillies this past year. And now I'm a free agent again. So
that's a long ways from Brian in a hurry.
yes, yes, it is.
So when you were playing growing up and you're just playing ball, that's interesting to find out that the travel ball, what age it kind of kicked in, because all of our guests are different. I honestly didn't. I'm old as dirt. I didn't get to play travel ball. Travel ball versus regular. How do you remember that being different, and what was your experience with teams, competitive environment, parents? What were your thoughts going through it?
I mean, when I was coming through, I mean, your league ball, you had your teams that were stacked, that had the really good players because they had the drafts or whatever they were called. When I got into U-Trip, I was like 11, 12, it was more of I don't know, the way I look at it now is like you have the travel ball teams now they have some good players. They have like 1 or 2 or 3 good players. I guess that would be like your single A divisions, stuff like that, like your lower end single A divisions. When I was in there, it wasn't like that. It was all of your good ones that played travel ball, they left league. And it was every team you played was, I guess, the equivalent to like, a really good AA to AAA major teams. It was, the classifications weren't really, it was more open tournaments when I was coming through. So it wasn't like a strict, like you had different divisions, like where majors played majors, AAAs played AAAs, stuff like that. Like it was more like you had classifications, but it was more open based tournaments just because it wasn't as big as it is now. And so I think that was good from a competition standpoint, playing against, major caliber guys consistently. I think I'm a firm believer in that you put kids in against competitive environments and against kids that are better than them. You do it for long enough. Like there's going to be a lull point at the beginning that's really tough because of the adjustment, but I think it gets better as you go on. Like I'm a firm believer in that. I think that's had a huge part in my success coming up. As I've gone through baseball, is just like the competition I faced early and playing up with different age groups and stuff at a younger age, I think helped a ton.
For sure.
Did you always play in your age group, or did you when you were 10, were you playing with 12s, or did you just stay with your
I bounced back and forth. I didn't really start playing up till I was 12, right around there. I'd go up and play with 14s and 15s. You could do that back then. You can't do that now. It's a little frowned upon now, I think. But I did that quite a bit. It wasn't all the time. It was just kind of as an as need basis. But my dad wasn't scared to put me against guys 2 to 3 years older than me. Just I don't know. I was never one that kind of backed down to anything. Like it never bothered me. Like if somebody was better than me, I didn't just kind of fold up in a ball and just get upset about it. I took my lump and learned from it and kept pushing on.
Charlie and I have talked on here before about early bloomers versus late bloomers, and we all know those kids' stories. Where did you fall? Were you
I
early,
was definitely
late?
a late bloomer.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
definitely a late bloomer. I didn't start putting on. I always I always threw hard, and I don't think throwing hard and doing X Y Z. That I don't think that has to do with early or late. I think some people can do more than other people can. I think the early bloomers, I think it helps them at an early age. But I still think physically, God bless you with what He blessed you with. So it's that's my personal opinion on that. But you know, it's for me. I feel like I said I fell into that later stage, so I didn't really start catching stride, and until I got like toward my senior year of high school.
Mm.
There was a lot of the guys that were still good buddies of mine that I played with in high school that were seniors that were they always lifted more than I did. They were faster than me. They hit better than me. Like they always did stuff better than me. And I kind of caught up with them my senior year where, they were doing that their freshman, sophomore year.
Blaine, when did you go to being primarily a pitcher?
So I guess you could say it was my sophomore year of high school, I guess you could say. But so freshman year, I played outfield and pitched. Sophomore year, I went to straight pitching. Junior year, I went to straight pitching, and then my senior year, we needed another outfielder again, so I pitched and played outfield again.
Wow.
So I guess you could say it was sophomore year, and I just kind of filled in my senior year when I was needed, which was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I guess the true PO route, would have been my sophomore year of
So,
high.
so interesting that you didn't really start filling out until your senior year. When did you start getting recruited?
So, like I said, the recruiting umbrella was a little different when I was
Mm-hmm.
coming through. My first conversations with any schools were my sophomore year. Um, like I said, I still threw hard. I was just small.
Right.
So I think that helped, and I had a projectable frame. So I think that's what got me some conversations going, early on. Now it's a lot different. I don't even know when colleges can talk to guys now. I think it's like after their junior year, like in the summer going into their senior year, I think. I'm not real sure.
I believe that just changed it.
Yeah,
So
I know it changed recently. I just don't.
unless you're D2,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
you
so.
can. I think you can
Yeah.
register them earlier, but
I know it's
uh,
changed a lot. I know that.
yeah. But hey, back to early late bloomer. I don't think you're the prototypical late bloomer. You obviously were athletic. You just hadn't filled out. But at the same time, you had to work harder. Charlie and I were talking earlier today. Sometimes those late bloomers learn some work ethic that's going to pay them dividends when maybe an early bloomer just is riding that early success, the
Mm-hmm.
early body. Um, what's your thoughts on that? Have you seen that throughout your time?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think it depends on the kid. If you have a late bloomer kid that is willing to take lumps and like stuff doesn't really bother them, I think it's really good for those kids, and I think it teaches them how to just kind of work and just keep pushing, and have that competitive chip on their shoulder. Like I'm gonna be better than them. Like you're gonna keep pushing on. Then you're gonna have some kids, like it's going to be different for them just because they don't know how to. It's not they don't know how. It's that maybe they're just not good at handling struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of collapse on themselves a little bit. But I think that comes from person to person. I don't think you can teach the adversity aspect of life. Like either you're really good at handling it, or it's a little harder for some. So I think it depends on kid to kid. But those kids that are able to handle adversity well, whether it's not doing XYZ, whether you're not hitting as well as some of the kids that you're playing with, or pitching as well, or throwing as hard. You know, if they're willing to, if they're able to handle the adversity side of it, I think it does a lot for them down the road, not just in baseball but in life.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, One of the things that we've also been dealing with on our team right now, we're 12U going into our spring season, is I set the boys down after the fall, and it wasn't as successful on the outside as people wanted, as far as record and things. But we pitched a lot of kids. We did some different things, and that was by design. But I told the kids, it's time, in my opinion, to start intertwining baseball development on your own, regardless of our practices, as a way of life if you want to keep playing at 13, 14, and hopefully make the high school team. How much outside development did you do away from your teams, and what age do you think it's okay to kind of just intertwine and make that who you are? Not saying you're not going to play other sports, but you're still going to do baseball activities to get better year
Um, Now with the talent pool like it is, I think the talent has gotten better, with these younger generations. Whether I don't know if it's genetics, I don't know what it is. I just think as a whole, I think it's gotten better. Like my dad runs 2D for the state of Arkansas, so like I go and help him with tournaments when I'm home in the fall, and it's like just watching some of these teams and some of these kids at this age. Like these kids are doing stuff that we never did at that age,
Hmm.
and so I think we're used to it have been like, when you're getting to like 13, 14, that's when you should really start, honing in on like, you need to be getting with a good instructor, learning, whether it's good mechanics, good hitting mechanics, like doing X, Y, Z, to push yourself in the direction you're wanting to go. I think you could cheat ahead a couple years now, like around that 12-year-old mark where it's like, obviously, like, I don't think 12-year-olds should be doing weighted balls and should be doing, extreme weightlifting and stuff like that. Like they're still kids. But, as far as getting in with good instructors who know what they're doing, have been there and have done it and, can put them on the right path to keep going, I think around 12 is probably the good age to start doing it. At the same time with that, still let them be kids because they are kids, so I think them adventuring over in other sports is really good, just from an athletic standpoint. And, you always learn something from no matter what sport you're playing,
Hmm.
something that'll tie into whether, baseball, football, basketball, like other sports teach you other things too.
For
Yeah. Did
sure.
you play other sports, Tony?
I did. I stopped when my freshman year of high school is when I stopped and went strict baseball. But I did play other sports. Yeah.
Yeah. And along with doing, everyone's afraid. We were really afraid to do too much. We really slow played our team from 9, 10, and 11 years old because I was always afraid of my son just coming up to me one day and say, "I don't want to do this."
Yeah.
And if he's saying that only because we did way too much too early, then shame on me.
Yeah.
So that was always my fear, and we over almost to the extreme. Maybe we could have been a little more competitive in the last year or so, but I think that's still going to be fine because all the kids want to do this now. They all want to intertwine 3 days a week hitting. Um, Burnout. Do you see it? Do you hear much about it? I know you're out of the game as far as travel ball goes, but did you see it growing up yourself, or have you heard stories of that? And just like you said, we don't want to burn them out.
No, I was definitely seeing it. I saw it a lot more when I was, 14, 15, around that age. Parents just pushing their kids way too hard. And it made them to where they just, it wasn't the kid wanting to play, it was the parents wanting them to do X, Y, Z, whether it was them trying to relive their career through that kid or whatever. You do see it, and I hate to see it because it's unfortunate for the kid, but it is unfortunately an aspect that is around. And, you know, I've seen a lot of guys that I thought were really good that I was coming up with that, they hung it up because they didn't want to do it anymore. They got to where they didn't like the game. They didn't want any part of it. And, I hate it because I think, they could have gone and played and done well, but, they got burnt out on it and didn't want anything to do with it anymore. Wanted to go do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary for me. That's because what I wanted for my son was to enjoy baseball, no matter how far it takes him. That's going to be up to him, right? Or the genetics I gave him as well, whatever. But there's only it's going to be up to him. I didn't want it to be the opposite. I'd heard so many stories when we started this team of really good players, like you said, just quitting,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that's not going to grow the game of baseball or help a kid out any. When they're younger, one of the things that we have to deal with, the people listening to this podcast are dealing with 8, 9, 10s, and sometimes a little older than that. Of course, it's always the thing moving forward. What I'm getting at is instill confidence, but especially when these younger kids are out there and it is a game of failure. What's your advice to parents and coaches to keep their kids confident in a game of failure because it's a hard game?
My dad did a really good job at it, in my opinion. Like I said, this game is a game of failure. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you're doing; it's going to knock you right back down. Best thing you can do is let them fail. and let them learn from it. I know it's hard from a parent standpoint. Like I said, I'm dealing with it now. Like my kid's 3, but I'm having to let him learn now. Like I don't want him to have to go through it, but it's like you have to let them learn by their mistakes and by their failures. And I think when they fail, picking them right back up again and like telling them everything's going to be okay and all that, I think that can sometimes handicap them a little bit. I think baseball, there's never anybody to bail you out. Whether you're in the box, we got guys in the bullpen, but they're still not bailing you out if you put yourself in a situation. They're going to try, but a lot of times it doesn't work out. So I think it's good to let them fail and let them learn from it and let them try to pick themselves back up. Obviously, be there to support them and help as much as you can, but it's like don't just dive straight in and pick them right back up. Like they need to learn in this game that you need to learn how to get yourself out of situations, lean on people, but try to figure out how to get yourself out of situations. Like I said, it's hard to do that with 8 and 9-year-olds, and I get that, but it's like that's what my dad did with me. Like he was there to support and kind of nudge, but he never fully dove in and just bailed me out and picked me right back up. Like he let me try to figure it out for a little bit, and if I couldn't figure it out, then he would step in and we would learn from it. But he wanted to see if I could learn how to get myself out of my own failures, own situations.
Yeah, good advice. I do think that's what makes baseball the absolute hardest sport for little kids because you can't hide.
No, for sure.
There's going to be a time where every single person is looking at you, and you're probably going to fail.
With the game on the line, and you're going to strike out for the last out, whether that's your fault or not. It's not. It took a lot of other outs to get to the loss, but you're going to. Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah, it makes it really hard.
It does, and it's not. And the thing is, it's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse as they get older. Just because the competition gets better, and as they get older is where you really start seeing the talent separator start to grow. And then it goes back to what we talked about a minute ago. Like, okay, well, can the kid handle adversity and still learn to push and keep working, or are they going to fold up? And that's where I think if you can start young by not just completely picking them up, like just by just nudging them along and helping them when they need it, but letting them learn, I think it goes a long way as they get older. I really, really do.
Yeah. I also think baseball is great for that because they're going to get to that age where they're 9, 10 years old. You first start playing kid pitch and they're going to cry every single game. Like there's going to be something every single game that's going to be absolutely devastating. But by the time they're 12, they're used to it.
For sure. Absolutely. And, that's the thing about this game. It's unforgiving. And when it rains, it pours. And when it's sunshine for a little bit and then it pours again. And so it's just a matter of learning how to deal with it. And each kid's going to have their own way of dealing with it and learning how to work through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Blaine, you ended up being a pretty good pitcher. Let me ask you, there's a lot of kids out here who want to pitch. Almost every kid wants to pitch. Not all, but most want to. Let's just go between the 9, 10, 11, 12 age group first. And what do they need to be working on to be a good pitcher at that age? We don't know what they're going to develop. We don't know what post-puberty is going to look like, et cetera, et cetera. But to be a great pitcher at that age and looking back at your time, what did you do and what do you think a kid should be focusing on in that age group?
Learn about yourself and how you move, how you throw, and just learn how to throw strikes with it. That is like I do lessons and I work with a lot of younger kids and I work with a lot of older guys too. But like my whole thing with the younger guys is figure out how to make yourself as simple as you can to throw as many strikes as you can. Because at 9, 10, 11, 12, like those hitters are not that good. Like they're getting lucky more times than not when they're hitting a ball really hard. Mm-hmm. And if you can throw strikes, that's where I see kids getting in trouble at, is that they're nowhere close to the zone. And the kids that, like I said, the talent level's better. So it's like they're not swinging as much. And I'm pushing more toward the 10, 11 group. But it's like they're not chasing as much. They're not doing this. So it's a walk fest. And then they do throw one over the plate and somebody hits a decent ball. And now we clear the bases. And then now here the snowball goes. Where if you just throw strikes, and try to focus on just throwing stuff over the plate. I'm not talking about throwing curveballs. I'm not talking about throwing changeups. I'm not talking about doing any of that. Like, just throw fastballs over the plate and learn how to throw strikes, and you're going to be fine. Like, let them hit it. They're like, it's hitting's already hard enough as it is at the big league college level, let alone at like 9 and 10.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're depending on your infield and stuff to make plays for you, but that's part of the development process at 9, 10, 11, sometimes 12. Like, it's a development process. It's not about winning every single game we go out there. It's about these kids having fun and learning how to play baseball and do things the right way. And that's where a lot of people disagree with me. I have a lot of parents that I deal with that they're like, I want my 10-year-old to be able to throw curveball, slider, do this and this and this. And I'm like, why? There's no point in it. Why are we going to put them at an injury risk this early? One. And two, they can't even throw a fastball to me and hit me in the chest consistently. If I gave them 10, they're going to hit me twice.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to focus on any of that other stuff. But like I said, that's my own personal opinion.
For sure. Well, one of the big numbers in our team is 60%. And if we find that if we have 60% strikes for the game, we win most of those games.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing like on the professional side. Like you're higher like AAA big leagues. Like, if you go look at the really good ones, their strike percentage is going to be at minimum 60%. Yeah. Minimum. But I mean, they're facing guys that are getting paid a lot of money to do this. And they still throw a lot of fastballs. Yes, the velos are different, but the concept's the exact same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's go back to when you were talking, pick your brain a little bit, Blaine, when you said it's simple for the pitcher, for this 8, 9, 10, 11 age group. I think sometimes we take our kids early to a pitching coach or the coach that they're playing for, a dad or whatever, has talked to them about, this, and this, and they got 5 pitching mechanical thoughts in their head. And I almost think sometimes we overcoach pitchers at that younger age instead of just saying, there's a kid on our team. I said, at one point I just said, man, whenever you're playing catch, whenever you're throwing the ball from the infield, it's money. So why don't you just get up there, don't balk, and throw it like you're going to throw it to your cutoff man, getting athletic. I mean, expand on that a little bit what you meant by simple. I think that's what you meant.
Yeah, so you got to remember these kids, it's like you said, they got so many things going through their head at once already as it is. They're worried about the people looking at them in the stands. They're worried about the hitter in the box. They're worried about if there's somebody on base. They're worried about 700 things. So now you're going to try to take them through all of these steps, whether it's mechanic steps, whatever it is, and then expect them to try to do this consistently and still throw strikes when they have 700 other things they're worried about. They're worried about throwing a ball and their dad or mom being upset. They're worried about throwing a strike and the umpire not calling it a strike. I mean, they're worried about so many things. So for me, like with my young guys, I'm taking them and I'm not changing the way they throw, because the way they throw is going to change 5 more times by the time they get to 12, 13, just because of how they grow, whatever. So it's like, how can we make you as simple as we can to be repeatable and give yourself a chance over the plate? Well, if you go look at them, like you said, when they're being athletic, they're not thinking about it and they're just doing it. It is a very simple action to throw. Very simple. And they can be pretty consistent with it when they want to be. It's when they start trying to do more and they start trying to do it, whether it's what they see on TV, whether it's what they saw Big Brother do, whether it's what their dad told them to do, pitching coach, whatever, and they start really trying to overdo stuff, is where we get snowball fights and stuff ends up all over the field. So it's like, for me, like, can we just get to where we can come set consistently? We can get a consistent leg lift. We can get a consistent handbrake and just throw.
Right.
Period.
Yeah,
and
they're
give them
thinking
a chance
more
to be
than
repeatable.
that, Blaine. They're thinking about a lot more than that sometimes.
I know they are, but it's like, that's what I'm trying to push toward them, is like, can we do this? And it's like, it takes, like, all my younger ones, like, it takes like 2 weeks for me to get them to buy in on it. But it's like, when they finally start doing it, they're throwing more strikes, and they're like, and then the parents are like, wow, they've never thrown this many strikes, or they've never been this consistent, and the kid's doing better, and he's getting confident and everything else. It's like, simplify as much as you can young, because at the end of the day, like, my goal when I'm pitching still is I want to be as simple as I can to have repeatable delivery, repeatable mechanics, and have a repeatable arm slot to where I can be consistent over the plate, period.
Can you go back and repeat that when you were first telling me? I think you said, come set, get a good leg lift, separate your hands. What was those three things?
Yeah, so for me, can we come set? Can we get a consistent leg lift? Because sometimes you have some of them that want to pick their leg up here by their head. You have other ones that don't want to pick their leg up at all. And like I said, it's to each kid, but like figure out what's comfortable for them and have a consistent set, consistent leg lift, consistent handbrake, and then just throw. Like their arm's going to work. They know how to throw. You just got to let it work.
Let me ask you about the leg lift. I've got a lefty that doesn't like to go real high, and I'm thinking, well, maybe we should get him in and have a coach look at him. But he doesn't do too bad. Could just be a natural thing for him? And do you have a problem with a lower knee lift?
I don't. If he was right-handed, I would not really have a big problem with it. I don't have a problem with it as a lefty either. It's just as a lefty with a lower leg kick like that consistently, you're going to pull yourself out of being able to pick off at first as he gets older.
Yeah, that's the thing. His pickoff move's not great because it's obviously different.
Yeah, like for lefties, that's where they're holding runners at first gets really good, is when we can have a lower leg lift to be quicker to the plate or whatever, but we still need to have a good leg lift that is consistent to where we can pitch out of it and still pick off at first and look the same, because that's what holds that guy over at first a lot tighter. Or if he gets off there a little bit, that's what fools him, and then you can back pick him and you can get a free out.
Blaine, how long has your pitching mechanics been the same? Like, when's the last time you made a big change to your own pitching mechanics?
Overall has been the same since probably my freshman year of college was probably, I take that back. My sophomore year of college was probably my last not big change, but like where I kind of just said, this is what my mechanics are going to be. Over the years, like I said, whether it's because I'm older and I'm not moving as well anymore or whatever, like I've had to make tweaks to it to be able to consistently do what I'm wanting to do. Sorry, my 3-year-old's trying to get in the room. But I still tweak on them every now and again. It's very small, minor things, but like to answer your question, the last time I really changed mechanics would have been my sophomore year of college.
What was that change that you made? Just out of curiosity.
Like I talked about a minute ago, becoming really, really simple.
Okay.
I was really long. My delivery was very, very long. It still is long. Not as long as it used to be. I was really kind of cross-fired, kind of crossbody. And, it's when Wes Johnson came into Arkansas, was in 2017. And we looked at it to the fact of like, I move really well. I'm not in a position, whether it's, for me, it was from handbrake to foot strike. I was never consistent in where my timing was. So I would throw one at 94 and I'd throw another one at 91 and be trying to do the same thing both times. But body-wise, I wasn't allowing myself to get into that consistent spot, to get a consistent rip on the ball, consistent power, everything else. So we ended up kind of changing the way I moved a little bit to where, I got more consistency from a power number standpoint and out of hand for throwing strikes.
And how did you implement that? Just reps?
Reps a lot. I do a lot of dry work, a lot of dry work where I do not throw a baseball. It is strictly just me working the mound. And like I said, I know my feels now. I know what I have to do. And I know if I'm there and if I'm not. But even then, like we would go through stuff. Let's say I threw a pin. Let's say it was the fall of 17. I'd throw a pin and we'd work really hard and really dive in on it on a Monday. And then Tuesday it would be dry work. Wednesday would be dry work. Thursday would be dry work. And I'd throw another one on Friday. Wow. And it was just hammer that out until I got a really good feel for it where I didn't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I went and did it.
How many reps in one of those dry work bullpens?
Like I said, it varies from day to day. Like I said, I was in college, so I'd have some days I'd do that for 30 minutes. I'd have other days I'd do it for 10. It just depended on the day. I mean, the 10-minute days were the days I got in there and I was like, hey, I got a pretty good feel for this today. I don't want to overdo it and then cause a problem. Like, it's just like if we feel really good with that day and we have a good feel for it, like touch on it and make sure we're feeling what we're what we want and then be done with it.
Yeah.
Then the days that I kind of struggled with it and went 30, 20, 30 minutes with it was me really slowing down and forcing myself into the spots I needed to be into to make sure I got the feels I needed to lead into the next day of catch play or whatever.
Yeah, I know David's thinking the same thing I am, is that our 12-year-olds, the main thing they lack is consistency
Oh, yeah.
in their mechanics. So I know we're both interested in getting all of our pitchers much more, like simplifying their mechanics and making sure they're repeatable.
For sure.
Throw more strikes.
For sure. Absolutely. And from a health standpoint, too, like I said, it's the simpler you can be gives you, you're not battling yourself as much, which, like I said, throwing a baseball is not healthy to begin with at all. And so it's like, if you can be simple with your mechanics and how your body moves and put yourself in a position to be consistent, you're not going to fight yourself half as much. You're not putting as much stress on certain parts of the body. You're able to just kind of move throughout your own way. Because like I said, each kid's different and the way they do it's going to be different. But because there's no cookie cut way to do it, but it's like if they can figure out their way and they have the right people in place to help them figure out the right way that for them, they're going to be healthier. They're going to be able to throw more strikes. They're going to end up being more confident because they're getting outs. They're throwing strikes, and you're going to have a better version of that kid more consistently.
So it sounds like you're saying that if a kid self-organizes themselves into their throwing motion, they're less likely to be throwing it in a way that's going to hurt them.
Yes, and like I said, I mean, in a nutshell, yes. Like I said, and there's always factors that go in, depending on how a kid throws, depending on where his arm slot is. I mean, there's a bunch of different factors that go into it that really don't come into play until they get older, and there's more stress put to it with when you're throwing breaking balls, when you're doing certain other things. But I think they have a better chance of being healthy as they get older if they can learn how to simplify everything they're doing. I think it has a better output later on than it does early. I mean, early, best way to keep a kid healthy is just don't overuse them. Period. Don't overuse them. That's the easiest way to keep them healthy young. And like I said, everything I teach is helping them right now, but it's more for, 3-4 years down the road when we're 13, 14, 15. We're not tackling this now after we've already developed a lot of bad habits that could put us in jeopardy of an injury risk. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think one of the things that we're very interested in, obviously, is keeping our pitchers' arms healthy for their future, in case they want to keep playing baseball. So what do you think are the danger zones, but other than overuse, and I know you mentioned breaking balls, what are the danger zones on, you may have a problem later with this pitching?
I'm not a big fan of a lot of sidearm stuff with the younger kids. I know they see a lot of guys do it on TV and they want to mimic what they see on TV, which is fine. But, I know a lot of guys that have thrown from that slot, and I still know a lot of guys that throw from it, and I know what they say about their arms every single day. And, it's one of those ones that's, like I said, baseball's not healthy from a throwing standpoint, but, at the same time, there is no correct slot, like I said a minute ago, and there's no correct way to just make every kid do something. It's kind of to their own. Some kids are going to be more comfortable in that low 3/4, and, that's where God intended them to throw from. There's going to be some kids that are better off, throwing at a really high slot, like that 12 o'clock slot up here, which is fine. And so, I mean, it depends on the kid and depends on how they throw. But, it's my biggest thing that I see at this younger age is overuse.
Right.
Because like I said, you got one or two kids on a team that's your guys that carry you. And unfortunately, you look up in a weekend and they've thrown 130 pitches in a weekend at 11 years old. That's a problem. That's a bad problem. Like, I go throw 100 pitches, I'm down for 3 days.
Right.
And now you're asking an 11, 12-year-old to do the same thing except do it all in one weekend. That's not smart, in my opinion. And, and I know travel ball, I know 2D does. I'm a big fan of what 2D does with their pitch counts and how they do everything, because it is it's for the kids. I know it's frustrating for the coaches because it makes them have to do things that they don't want to do with other guys, and they want to be able to pitch their guys and win. And I understand that. But like I said earlier, this level and this age is not about winning all the time. It's about developing the right way and getting these kids prepared to move on to the future. So when it is time to win, they're prepared.
Mm-hmm. So 2D uses pitch counts. PG uses pitch counts. U-Trip uses innings. And Little League also uses innings.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see a lot more pitching abuse, I think, in those leagues.
In the innings, here's my problem with the innings. So I know y'all have seen it. So let's just say you have an 11-year-old group, okay, and you got one kid that you're throwing. Well, that inning, he could throw 60 pitches in one inning.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it happen. I've literally seen it happen. I've had parents tell me about it. And so that's my problem with the innings is like, okay, well, he only threw one inning today. Well, how many pitches did he throw in that inning? Well, he threw 60 pitches. Okay, well, then he threw another inning the next game. How many did he throw that game? 40. Okay, well, now we're at 100 pitches.
Yeah. And the crazy thing was neither one of those innings was successful. You didn't throw a successful 60-pitch inning.
Nope. And so that's where I have the problem with the innings is, you can, the coaches can, they can regulate how much they're throwing in the inning. But like I said, the problem with the travel ball now is that there's not an emphasis on the development side as much as it is winning. And so the coaches most of the time are not going to go out there and get that kid. They're going to keep letting him go. And that's where we start having problems with overuse.
Right. 30 is our number.
I feel like that's a good number. Yeah. I feel like that's a good number.
Yeah, 30 for an inning. And if they throw 30 an inning, they're probably not coming to the next inning either.
That would be,
we didn't in the fall for sure. I mean, I hope I still, am strong enough to do that because you get out there, you do want to win.
But if a kid throws 30 pitches in an inning, he's.
But we've all agreed as coaching on our team, it's 30 an inning. You're done for the day. And we've got some other things that we're a little more conservative than most. But I'd rather do that than look back and go, one kid that's really good hurt his arm. I couldn't sleep with that either. So
yeah.
I don't know. Hey, moving for some of our bigger kids listening, say let's just say a year out from high school tryouts. What advice do you have for them? I really don't have a pointed question. Just what would you be telling a kid a year out from high school tryouts?
From a standpoint of getting ready or
what do they need to do physically? Not only action-wise in baseball skill development, but in their bodies, getting ready for high school a year out.
So high school, like I said, so I guess freshman year, going into freshman year, you're what? Was that 14?
14, maybe 15.
14, maybe 15. So they're at that age now where they should have, like I said, if they're around, they have the right people around them, they should have already been in with whether it's a good instructor, whatever, and have an idea of what they should be doing now and what works for them. And for going into the high school realm, it's just take what you're doing and do it a lot and do it very well and do it consistently. And like I said, it's like every school's different depending on where you're at and whether you're 7A, 2A, whatever. But it's just like, don't go trying to change a bunch of stuff that's been working for you. Because I feel like a lot of kids, they hit that high school realm and it's like, I got to do more. Not necessarily you got to do more. It's just, you got to adapt to the situation you're in and the talent you're facing. And, there's going to be a lump there, coming from, like, especially if you're a freshman that's good enough to go end up playing varsity, like, there's going to be a little bit of a lump there just because you're playing against older guys. There's always going to be a gap there. Mm-hmm. So it's just do what you've been doing that works for you and go get really good at it and be open to adjusting and tweaking things to be able to keep producing and keep pushing yourself on down the line. Because this game, you're never going to be able to stay the exact same in this game. You're going to have your mold that you have per person, but like you're always going to have to adapt to this game.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. When you went into college, what was the biggest adjustment for you?
The biggest adjustment was just
emotionally, physically, the whole thing.
For me, it was the speed of the game. Like I said, when I got to Arkansas, I started on the weekend as a freshman. I started on Sundays, and I remember that first month of season. It was different than anything I faced in fall ball. Like I said, you're facing your own guys, so it was different from the speed of the game. Like I caught myself a lot, just like speeding up too much.
Mm.
And it was, like I said, I was a freshman and I was throwing on Sundays in the SEC, throwing against LSU, throwing against Ole Miss, Mississippi State. So, I mean, you're facing just some dudes and you catch yourself getting sped up a little bit. And like I said, it took me about a month to adjust. But once I adjusted and, just figured out what I needed to do just from a mental side and just, what I needed to do to stay locked in, I mean, I felt as comfortable as I'd ever have.
I hear that a lot. The speed of the game, the next level, the speed of the game, whatever that is. There's several jumps in that. But are you just saying your mind felt really active and
For sure.
you had to just control your mind to then control your breathing, to control your body to get back to regular old Blaine? Is that
Absolutely. For sure. I mean, yeah. I remember my first start. I think it was against Western Michigan, I think. And I mean, there was 16,000 people in Baum. And I mean, I was about to hyperventilate. I'd never thrown in front of that many people before. And, I mean, I'd done a lot of baseball, showcase stuff, and I mean, all kinds of stuff, but I'd never been in that situation, so then you take that situation and you learn how to handle it. Well, then you do it again. Now you're facing Mississippi State at home. And now you're facing a big time SEC school with 16,000 people screaming. And it's like, I had to learn how to control, especially when balls got put in play, you got runners on base. It was just a matter of like, all right, just relax, like quit overthinking everything. Cause that was my bad problem, was that like I'd get a runner on. It's like, okay, now I got to be perfect to Jake Mangum. If I don't, he's going to hit one here, and I take a chance on this guy scoring, and now we got this problem.
Yeah.
And
So
for me, that's how I sped the game up.
Yeah. How'd you do that? Like, how'd you get control of your emotions in those situations? Is there a breathing trick or anything that you could do?
So for me, it was a matter of just stepping off, and like I said, you can probably go back and watch a lot of video. I would look down at my feet a ton, especially when there was runners on and stuff like that. Like I would look down a lot. And it was just like I found a piece of dirt, like whether it was like a little piece of a like turfus or whatever, and I would just like stare at it for a second. And I was like, get my thoughts together, and I was like, all right, let's go again. Like I said, it took me like a month to be able to figure that out. And like I said, it didn't fix the problem, but it gave me a second to get my thoughts back under me, catching my breath for a second, and then get ready to go again. Even when stuff was hitting the fan, it was like it gave me just that little bit of a second to reset a little bit and then go again.
Because I know we can look out at the field when our kids are playing or when we're just watching games, and this definitely affects kids too. Like you can see them almost hyperventilating, especially when they're on the mound, and you think, wow, their heart rate is really high. Like I wish there was something I could tell them to calm them down.
Best thing, I mean, like I said, there's no right way to do it. Like for me, it was just like I found a piece of turfus or a rock or whatever I could find, and it was just like I just looked at it for a second, took a couple deep breaths, got back on and go.
Yeah.
And
shift your focus.
Just kind of just get your focus away from everybody screaming.
Yeah.
You got runners on second and third. Like just get your mind away from it for just a second. Like I said, don't take 2 minutes. I mean, take just a second, catch your breath, get a couple good breaths, and then all right, let's go again.
Right.
Don't stare down long enough that they still home on you in our league.
But they will.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that's great advice. I think the one thing that I've tried to do with them is, and maybe we're going to shift this to your ideas. I've tried to give them, hey, go to one thought in your head, one word that's your word for today. What have you been working with your coach, or what are we talking about as a team? And breathe, say your word, and come back. But I like the idea of the visual because that makes you focus a little bit more than just saying a word while your mind's already jumbled. So I think maybe I've been doing that wrong.
And I also think the word, it's a baseball or a competitive word that they're maybe just taking their focus completely off of the competition entirely and putting it on something abstract or random.
Well, for me, like I said, at the younger ages, for me, it's like them looking at that, they don't have to think about a word. They don't have to think about, anything when they already got 700 things going through their head. It's like they can just look at that, catch the, like, get a good couple breaths, and like, all right, let's go again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, let's go.
Like,
We're going to do that, Charlie.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we start getting back together in January. We'll have to start just here. Look at that.
We need to get the parents to do it too. We're
We
more
need to have parents look at a fence.
Yeah,
Relax. It's going to be okay. It's just pool play.
just full play.
Just a couple more, Blaine. We know you've been with us a while. We appreciate it.
no problem.
I did want to ask you about the World Series experience up there, and just tell us a little bit about your memories on that. That was such a great time for Arkansas fans. That was such a good team, the 18 team. Just kind of tell me a little bit what you remember about it.
Oh, I mean, it's. I wish I could go back. I wish I could do it all again. That team was a special team just from how close we all were. It was a fun year. I remember. I could probably tell you about every game, at least that we won that were big games. I could probably tell you about anything that happened in them. But Omaha was special from the aspect for me. Like I said, I had never been there. When I got there in 16, it was right after they went in 15. So like Shaddy and Bonfield and Spanberger and all those guys, like all they did was talk about that, and Bernal and all of them. And so it was, I'd heard about it for so long. And then 16 was a down year. 17, we lost out in our own regional. And then, 18, we finally were able to put the pieces together to, turn that switch over and get back to Omaha. And so just all the memories from that, just the work and the time that went into all of us, coming together as a team to figure out a way to do it in over 3 years, is all really good memories for me. Bad memory, obviously, is the drop pop-up. It's unfortunate, but that's baseball. Really tough play and really big foul territory, bigger than we played in all year. And there was 40-something thousand people screaming when that ball went up, and miscommunications happened. But, for me, the best memories was just, playing there with those guys. And I mean, we gave it all we had. We really did. I know there's probably some fans and stuff that think we could have done some stuff a little different, or we could have, a couple of guys could have done something more. But you got to remember, at the end of the year, we had some guys that were playing on some injuries, and that were fatigued. And I know I was tired. I mean, that game against Oregon State, I was so gassed about when they pulled me. Like I was done. I was tired. I was almost 120 something innings in at that point. And I mean, for a 21-year-old kid, that's a lot of innings.
Yeah.
And so, but just good memories just from, like I said, the win against Texas. I wanted that one really bad. Then the win against Oregon State, and then, just good memories from those guys, and good stuff from the young guys that I'm still really close with too. Martin and Kerstad and those guys. I mean, those were some special guys.
That was a fun team. I'll tell you, it would have been great. But I know what you're saying by appreciating. I get what you're saying. I hope you understand that. I appreciated watching that team because it was fun watching those guys do their thing, and all of the guys. It was a fun team that really played hard.
For sure.
And you could see that. And I think that's what most of the Longhorns teams have always been about. And I think that's why the crowds love going to watch it, because it's play right, play hard, and there's not too many stinkers where you go, man, they didn't show up today.
Yeah.
That was the first team that, my son is 12. That was the first team that he was like really paying attention to. Actually, and he's a big Shaddy guy. He absolutely loves Carson Shaddy, just because I think, Carson always seemed like just such a nice, positive kind of guy. So yeah, exactly. He loves Shaddy. And, I know being at the Super Regional that year, was it the Super Regional where Carson hit that big home run?
Was
South Carolina?
Yes, that would have been the Super Regional.
Yeah, that's and Carson had a big home run, and I just remember Dylan being so excited for that Super Regional. Yeah, that was a really fun year.
That was a great group. I'm going to tell you, Blaine, what I remember from the World Series. Not the most, but I do remember it. To the point of almost when I was seeing it, I thought, if I ever meet this dude, I got to ask him what he's up to, man. This cat's different. So they did a segment on you, fishing.
Oh yeah.
With a a line and a hook and no pull. And I'm like, this cat just carries around the hooks and string. And they ask you, what did you use for bait? And you go, hot dog. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so
That was crazy.
Let me explain what happened with that.
Okay.
So in 2016, Josh Alberius, a really good buddy of mine. He's like I said, he's a year older than me. He was done in 17. Every time, like, we fished all the time, like Beaver Lake, we would go everywhere. And every time we'd go on the road, we had these travel rods that broke down that we would take on the road with us. So when doesn't matter where we went, like we'd have practice or whatever, and like before the game, we'd get up at like 8 and go fish, come back, get dressed, go to the game. So we did that for 16, 17. Well, Cronin started fishing with me in Josh in 17. Josh left, so it was just me and Cronin in 18. So we couldn't find anywhere in Omaha hardly to go fish. And we were like I said, we were there for 2 weeks. So we were like, we're going to find somewhere to go fish. And then, so we ended up finding this pond. It was just a normal, like, I guess their game and fish style pond, I guess. I don't really know. And we went over there and started fishing. Like I said, we threw everything we had. Rattle traps, spinner baits, I mean, everything. And we couldn't catch anything. Well, this guy walks up and asked if we did any good. And we were like, no, we hadn't caught anything. He was like, what are you using? And we told him. He was like, I thought you messing up. He's like, you need hot dogs. And we were like, hot dogs? Like, okay. And I was like, I'm not really interested in catching catfish. Like, I could care less about dealing with catfish. Like, and our rod, the setups that we had were not going to be good for catching, like, bigger catfish. It was probably going to break them. So we ended up, my wife, she was actually up there. And so we took her car, went to the gas station, picked up hot dogs, came back, and we decided we still wanted to bass fish. So what we did was I tied line onto the dock. And like just 20 foot probably, something like that. And I tied on there and threw it out. Cronin actually used one of his rods and threw it out. And I mean, within 5 minutes, Cronin caught like a 6-pounder. I caught one off the dock that was like 4.
That's amazing.
And we were just like, well, I guess it's that easy. I guess we use hot dogs more often.
Those Nebraska catfish like hot dog.
Oh,
apparently so, because they would not touch anything else we had.
Oh.
So
that's a fantastic story, and it's been spinning in my head for years because I remember watching that, going, man, this guy just carries string, a hook, and a hot dog with him, man. That's hardcore.
Yeah, so that's how that one. And then like I know Kyle Peterson and them found out about it, and then we ended up going and doing stuff with him. His buddy had a farm somewhere, and there was like a whole ESPN thing on like me and Cronin fishing. We had a fishing competition that day. Yeah. For the record, I whooped him.
Yeah. So what is it about fishing? Because Charlie and I talk about this. Our boys love to fish. I mean, I think the entire team loves to fish. And it's part of it's that competition thing you just said, because when there's 2 or more of them together, they start talking when one's killing it. We got a neighborhood little pond lake thing here, and it's easy. It's stocked, and it's all day long. It's cheating. But they start counting fish, and it's like, how many you got? You know?
Oh, yeah.
But what is it about fishing and baseball? Because Charlie and I have talked about this 100 times. Why do so many people that play baseball love to fish?
I don't know. You know, I mean, it's funny because you think about it, like, there's a lot of guys that play that fish and hunt. And why it's like that, I don't know, but it is. I guess I know the hunting side because, I mean, if you grew up doing it, I mean, we have all off season to do it. I mean, the only thing you miss out on is, you know, turkey in the spring. But, I mean, fishing side, I really don't know. I don't know if it's just because we can be competitive with it and it's not baseball and it's not another sport. I don't really know. I really don't. It's
a lot of them.
I think it helps being down here in the South because I think kids grow up doing it down here. So I think that helps. But, I mean, it definitely turns competitive somehow. And I don't really understand how. I just know it does.
Well, there's a picture the Razorbacks put out of Nolan Souza caught a big fish in the pond behind Baum.
Oh, I've caught a lot of fish.
Did you really? I didn't think anything could grow in that. I thought it was toxic.
I would not eat them. Everything we caught in there was catch and release, and none of us really know how they got there. We think a lot of the guys, before all the fertilizer and stuff started up going in there, I think there was some guys, you know, well before us. I think they I heard rumor that they went over to like beaver and stuff and caught them and like stocked them in there and catch them. That's the rumor. I don't know if it's true.
Well, the one
I never
Bowling caught was
put any
big. Yeah.
but I sure did catch them though.
Just a one more here. We'll let you go again. Thanks for this. Well, two things. I'm always got one more. Two things. One, I want you to tell us about just a really great minor league story. They're all out there. The PG version. We've got a lot of young listeners, and then we want to wrap it up with telling us what you're doing today, and if you've got openings and what your goals are with still staying in the game. So if you got a good minor league story, let's hit one of those up real quick.
So I do. They don't have it anymore, unfortunately. It was called the Puppy Monkey Rodeo. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have not.
So it's like I said, they don't do it anymore. Golly, I think I was in high A, I think. Yeah, I was in high A, which had been Frederick, Maryland. So it had been 2019. We were sitting there and we were told the Puppy Monkey Rodeo was coming. It was like like they do in minor league games, they do like little things in between innings all the time. So this guy had these Australian Shepherds and had, I think it was like 7 or 8 sheep. And he would let the sheep go on the field in between innings, and these 2 Australian Shepherds would run out. And on the Australian Shepherds were 2 monkeys dressed up as cowboys, like the little monkeys that you see in movies.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of monkey it is, but there was 2 of them, and one was on each dog, and they were dressed up as cowboys, and they would run around and herd these sheep back up, like in the outfield, and push them out the gate. And so all you saw running by the dugout and by the bullpen were these like little monkeys, just like,
oh my god,
riding Australian Shepherds, chasing sheep around. It was the best thing ever. I've never seen anything like it.
I can't believe that was allowed.
I've never heard that.
It's not allowed anymore, but it was awesome to watch. Like,
oh yeah,
they did it all game. They did it in like the 3rd inning, like the 7th, and they did it again the 8th and 9th, and it was the funniest thing on the planet. It was awesome.
I would 100% be out at the ballpark. If the monkey rodeo was there. Yeah.
I mean, I get why they don't do it anymore, but I wish they still did it because it was awesome.
My wife's going to ask me why I haven't helped out with anything Christmas decorations today, and I'm like, I'm deep diving in Google to see if I can find this monkey cowboy rodeo.
Yeah, literally. Puppy Monkey Rodeo.
Puppy Monkey Rodeo.
Puppy Monkey Rodeo, and like there's videos of it on YouTube and stuff. It's awesome. Like they have like little cowboy hats on and like vests and chaps and everything. Like there's a little saddle they're sitting on the dogs. Like,
oh my gosh.
Can the monkey jump off and cruise into the crowd?
The monkey had to be attached to the dog.
I think he was attached to the saddle. I think they had like a little harness on him in the saddle where they couldn't get off. I mean, like they would come in the locker room and stuff after the games, and like they were in everybody's locker, like they were jumping around like crazy. So I'm assuming they had them in the saddle somehow where they couldn't go anywhere. I could be wrong. They could have trained them to sit there and ride. I have no idea. But
that's bananas. No fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. We had penguins. We had penguins show up in the locker room one day. Like that was pretty cool.
That's the beautiful thing about minor league ball.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some interesting stuff that happens in these little towns in minor league baseball. Kind of wild.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother podcast someday. So we could get 2 or 3 of you guys that have cruised the minor circuit and talk stories. That might be a great episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. Thanks so much today, Blaine. What are you doing now? Are you open for lessons? Are you full? Do you want to continue giving lessons, or are you going to try to rehab and get back out there and throw again? What's your plans in the future?
Yeah, so free agent right now. After the winter meetings is when we'll start talking to teams, doing all that, trying to figure out where who's got an opening and what we can do. Free agency is it's free agency. It's interesting. There's no telling what's going to happen, no telling where you'll end up. So, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to still be able to play. I mean, it's been a fun ride, so I'm going to continue to do it as long as I can. And in the meantime, try to help these kids down here as much as I can and try to get them, on a start to where, when they got to where I was in high school and stuff, really trying to figure out what I wanted to do and how far I wanted to go. There's not that big gap there that you have to try to do a bunch of learning to get to where you want to be. It's like at least they have some good footing and a good foundation to build off of. So I'll do that while I'm home, and hopefully be back to work in the spring with somebody.
Well, we'll be watching for you, and we'll be rooting for you. Big fans here. Like I said, Charlie and I'm big Razorback fans. She probably knows more about Razorback baseball than I do. Well, there's no about it. She does. And we just really enjoyed watching you come through and they get a chance to the opportunity to talk to you today and share all of our passion with travel ball. It's been really cool. So thanks a lot for coming. And Charlie, anything else? Anything else you want to add?
Thanks a lot, Blaine. Good luck.
Oh, thank you. Thank y'all for having me. I enjoyed it.
Appreciate you. And for everyone else there listening, we'll see you at the ball.